Okay, so this webinar that we're doing today is going to be recorded and it's going to be posted at writable.com/academy. So after this, you can go there and view the webinar again. Also, there's some resources we have. So we're using a slide deck and we're providing you with resources that you can use. And that bit.ly is bit.ly/writable101/September 2022. So go ahead and go to that if you want any of the resources we're using today or any of the things Tim and I are covering. Additionally, we do have Writable Academy, which is where this will be posted, but we also have a lot of on-demand PD. We have author-led PD. We have lots of YouTube videos to watch. So after this training, if you have any questions or you want to learn more about Writable, I recommend you go to our Writable Academy. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and jump in. So today, Tim and I are going to be walking you through just a really brief mini course on Writable, kind of a Writable 101. So on your path as teachers and admin to grow great writers, we're going to focus on the basics first. We'll get you logged in. We'll get you creating your class or bringing your rosters over. And then we'll dive a little deeper into our writing journeys, daily quick writes, the student experience, and the tools and supports that we provide students. And then we're going to talk about how you as teachers and admin can provide that valuable feedback. It's really quick, it's really efficient, and it's really key to writing success. All right, so we're going to go ahead and jump into Writable. Here's our agenda for today. And so Tim, let's talk about Writable. So what is Writable going to do for teachers? What is our goal for students?
Yeah, absolutely. So great question. So we like to start out our training reviewing the Writable learning model. So this gives you an overview of just a typical unit of instruction. And we like to kind of make that connection to Writable. So depending on where you are in your unit, you're always going to find some aligning practice to meet your goal for that day. So maybe in the beginning, when we're introducing our essential question, we're building some background knowledge, we might start with a high five. We're going to show you how to create one here today. For the bulk of your instruction, where you're explicitly teaching those reading and writing skills in your text-based lessons, we'll have some skills lessons, daily practice, maybe a graphic organizer to analyze text. If you're looking at more small group or independent practice, we might have some differentiation supports, targeted lessons, and of course, extended response. So extended response covering different genre tasks for different purposes. So really, wherever you are in your unit of instruction, whatever your daily goal is, we're going to have some practice in Writable. And to kind of tie that all together, some really good data insights from you. If you're using the feedback options, the AI components, which we'll talk about as well, they'll give you some really good data to kind of inform your instruction throughout that learning model. Absolutely.
Awesome. Thanks, Tim. So we're really going to talk about students getting that daily writing practice, practicing targeted skills, building up to some kind of extended response or benchmark assignment. So let's get started with logging in. So to get logged into Writable, you'll navigate to app.writable.com. And as you can see, there's I'm a teacher and I'm a student. So anyone who's not a student is going to log in as a teacher. So whether you're an administrator or a teacher, use the I'm a teacher. From there, you'll click sign in with and sign in with whatever platform your district uses. So sign in with Google or Microsoft, or if you use an LMS. Also, notice that tip at the top. So if your school or district has purchased Writable through HMH Ed, you're going to have a little bit of a different process. And in this slide deck, which we provided the link to in the beginning, and we can provide it again, are some specific instructions on how to do that if you're using Ed. It's also worth pointing out, if you're logging in for the first time, you're going to see something a little bit different. You're going to see our first time experience. It's going to guide you through importing rosters, some genre specific writing assignments, and just a few other steps that kind of just gives you a little bit of information on getting into Writable for the first time. If you have logged in before, you're going to land on the My Assignments page. From there, click over to the classes page, and this is how you're going to import those rosters. So hopefully you've logged in, you landed on My Assignments, and you clicked over to classes. As you can see here, you can import from Canvas, from Schoology, or from Google. So you would select the LMS that your district uses, and from there, your rosters and your grades and your assignments are all going to sync up with Writable. So you can use those right in here within Writable. If you need a little extra help with how that works, again, these resources are here in this slide deck, and it's very specific instructions on how to get this set up.
So actually, one thing we get asked a lot too, we can certainly import our rosters, right? We can link our grades. But if I'm not using an LMS, if I'm not using one of those options up on the screen, how can I easily get my students into Writable and get them rostered and get them up and going?
Oh, absolutely. That's a great question. So to answer that, I'm going to go ahead and go over into the app. So I've come to app.writable.com and I'm going to log in as a teacher using Google. Here I am on my assignments. I'm going to click over to classes. And what I see over here is where I can import my rosters from the LMS like we talked about. Or if your district doesn't use an LMS, you can click right into create a class. So here you'll click in, you'll name your class and you'll select the grade band. This is important for the standards aligning. So when you find an assignment, you'll want the standards to align with the grade that you select. From there, you'll get a join code or a share link and you'll send that out to students and that's how they'll join your class. They have to be part of a class roster in order to push the assignments out to them. So this is definitely a really important step. And thanks for asking, Tim, because you can create a class right here in Writable and everything is going to live right here in Writable. All right. So now that you're logged in, now that you have your classes in, what's a good place to start? Where should we get started? Tim, what do you think?
Yeah, excellent. So if you've been able to log in, you probably went right to Explore. So that's where we're going to start right now. And so Explore is going to be the starting point for all of your content here in Writable. And so in Writable, there's over 1,000 assignments that are ready to go with prompts, with rubrics. You can take what's here, you can customize it, you can make it your own, absolutely, or you can create everything from scratch. You can certainly do that. So we're going to pick out a few things that we find are really good starting points to get our students writing daily, potentially, in the program. So make sure you select your grade drop down from the menu right there. We're going to stick with middle school. And we're going to navigate down to the journeys section. So if you're interested in journeys, there's a couple help articles here. What's a journey? How do I use a journey? It's really just a framework for finding some content that might align with your daily writing goals and the skill set that you might be working on at that time. So right now there's 8 journeys available. If you're teaching science, social studies, you could check those out. Paragraph proficiency for more grammar skills, short response. And you can see those different writing domains. We're going to pick response to information to get us started. So when we choose that journey, we'll have 3 different collections. And generally, when you choose a journey, you'll have kind of a similar format. Extended response, which I might be working up to again at the end of that unit. But to get there, at the end of the journey, I might want to look at some skills practice or maybe our high 5. So if you're newer to the program, we do find these are a really good starting point. So I'm going to click into our high 5 skills quick writes. And regardless of the journey, what you'll have are a series of prompts that target one skill and some sample prompts to go with it to get you started. So when I'm creating these, I'll have the proficiency of my class while I'm looking at planning, the number of times practiced. So that can kind of guide my planning while I'm creating my high 5s. So of course, the idea is I can assign some targeted quick write practice, a few minutes a day. I get my students writing daily, and I can build up to that end of unit extended response. So let's look at our summarize and identify main idea prompt. We have a sample here. If we want to get started with this, we're just going to click into that box. We can take the sample, we can write our own, but either way, the idea is it can fit with your class, with whatever you're reading, with whatever you're studying. If we create our assignment, it'll guide us through a couple extra steps, and it'll be that easy to get our prompt started here in Writable. There's a few other ones that we like to highlight. So we're going to navigate back to Explore. I definitely encourage you to check out the featured content as well, especially right now, beginning of year. We're going to find some grammar skills practice, maybe some writing skills, mini lessons. So again, if we're looking at explicitly teaching some of these skills or just giving additional practice for our students, different genre specific skills. These are also a really good starting point here in Writable. And then lastly, we'll look at our weekly high fives. So again, this is going to be in our featured content. When we navigate into this collection, we'll have a whole series of quick write prompts. Again, we can give these couple minutes a day to get our students writing. They're really high interest, engaging prompts. We had one just come out this week. We're going to have one every week from now on. So let's look at good sportsmanship. When we choose that prompt, we can get an idea of the skills and the standards that we're going to be assessing. We can certainly monitor progress in Writable according to those writing skills, reading and writing skills. And we're just going to preview as a student. We have some options. We can give sentence starters. If you're interested in incorporating different scaffolding for your students' graphic organizers to really structure their writing, we can certainly do that here in Writable as well. So if we're interested in this, and this one links to a video, we can see all we really have to do is just copy to my assignments. We're going to click Manage Assignment. And there you go. So now we've copied over our first assignment. And so Ashley, one of the things that we get asked a lot about as well are, what are the student supports that are available? What are the options to support them during the writing process? So I'm going to send it back over to you if you want to talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Tim. Okay, so like I said, I'm on my assignments page right now. Tim walked through how to navigate, explore, how to walk through journeys, and how to select what you want. So what I've done before is I've gone through and I've selected an assignment that I want to assign. It's called Pizza Past Writable 101. I can see a few things here. I can see I haven't yet assigned it to any classes or students. So obviously no one's turned it in or graded it. This is just a nice little preview dashboard. I can now click in. And I have a few options. I can edit it if I need to make any edits. Maybe I want to change the title, or maybe I want to change the prompt a little bit. I can preview it as a student, which Tim already showed you from the Explore page, or I can assign it out to my classes. So in the beginning, we talked about pulling your classes over or creating your class. So you can click Assign, and now you select the classes that you want it sent to from here. One thing I always recommend you do is assign to me. So that's when I said, when it says unassign, you are going to unassign it from yourself when you archive it, even if you're the only person you've assigned it to. So assign to me is an option for looking at it as a student would see it. So you can sign in as a student and see exactly what a student would see beyond just what Tim showed in the preview. So I'm going to go ahead and assign it to myself, and then I would select any other class that I want this assignment pushed out to. I'll click next, and here are my settings. So for submission type, I would select writing. I want my students to be writing. Now, if you have questions about any of this stuff, you can always hover over the little I and it will give you a little bit more detail. I'm not going to go into all the detail today, but you can certainly read a little more about each of these right in this settings page. You can assign self-reviews and peer reviews. And then as Tim was talking about, here are our student supports. I'm going to go ahead and enable all three so that I can show you the student supports that we have. Now, when I click assign, it will assign it out to the classes I've chosen or just to myself. So now it's assigned to me. I can see I have one student in my class and it's me. And to model as a student, I click this little person with the graduation cap. So when I click in, this is the student dashboard. This is what a student is going to see when they log in and have an assignment. I click into read and write, and here's what a student sees. So what they see is a reading over here on the left, and on the right, they have a prompt. For the reading, they can go through, and there's some tools that they can use that are really useful. So they can do some annotation, so they can go through and highlight. They can go through and they can highlight and take a note. So maybe they said, this is the main idea. And they can save that note over here where it says my notes. So any notes the student have taken will show up over here. So this is an annotation tool. Another great tool for students and an accommodation for students is to have either the reading read aloud, the prompt read aloud, what they've written, or the rubric. So these are some great tools students can use as they're getting started. So one of the great tools we have is Revision Aid. And what Revision Aid does is it provides feedback to students on their structure, their development, and their organization. It encourages a better revision process, which is really key to writing. So they can use the feedback from Revision Aid to revise their writing before they submit it. So it will say things like, you're missing a hook, or your conclusion sentence is weak. And students can use that feedback in their writing and then view that before they send it back to their teacher. So the main AI tools are Grammar Aid for grammar and spelling, Revision Aid for more structure, development, and organization. And then the third AI tool we have is Originality Check. And what that does is it would show a teacher, and Tim's going to show you in just a second, if there has been any plagiarizing. So it will check against anything on the internet that's not behind a paywall. And it will check anything else in Writable. So two students in two different buildings are not going to be able to use the same piece of writing. Students are not going to be able to take things off the internet and cut and paste it into this window and be able to get away with it. You will see that as a teacher. So I've kind of walked through that student view. They've gotten in, they've annotated, they've finished their prompt here. And as you can see, it's checked some grammar and some spelling and some usage. And now I'm ready to submit to my teacher. So from here, I'd like to pass it back to Tim so he can show you, what does a teacher see and how do they provide feedback back to a student?
Okay, excellent. So thank you, Ashley. So what we're going to show you here right now is, how do I now grade my students' work? How do I monitor their progress? What kind of data do I get that can really help identify where students are at? And of course, what we like to kind of talk about in Writable too is, how can we use the technology to really save us time and to kind of help us as teachers to identify if students need a little bit more support, and also to very easily and efficiently assess and grade them as well. So that's going to be what we talk a little bit more about here right now. So once we create our assignment, our students have been working through that, we're going to have this grading dashboard. So this is where we can monitor all of their work. This is where we'll get our grades and the bulk of our data for this assignment as well. On the left of this page, we have a few tabs. So our students, which we're viewing right now, guide and grade, which we're going to look at in a moment, and then your assignment settings, which of course you can edit and include any of those support options that Ashley mentioned at any time. You can always change those if you want to. So if we're looking at our students tab, and we'll kind of dig into this table right here, which will be the bulk of our data. So looking at the analysis tab, I can see my students. If they're actively writing, I'm going to know that they're writing here. I can monitor everything in real time. And so this tab, what it's going to do, it's going to help me identify students that might need a little bit more support. So in this particular assignment, if we have short response questions, I can tell right away 4 of my students in this particular class missed question 5. So that might be one that I might want to review. If there's a particular skill on the rubric that students might be struggling with, that's going to create that watch list for me. So then I can link over and I can support those students directly, again, using the technology, letting the technology find and identify students that need a little bit more support. So the analysis tab will help us dig into the data a little bit more. We're going to switch over to the feedback tab. This is going to give me all of my scores in the program. So teacher grades, once I've graded my students, if I've included the peer review or student self-assessment, self-review in this assignment, I'll get scores as well right here. And then one advantage of the AI, which Ashley mentioned as well, is whether you have this enabled or not, you're going to get a data point, and we can use that data point to, again, easily identify where students are at. So if I'm looking at my grammar aid scores and I can tell Bruiser right here, 54%, a little bit of a low score, that might be a student I might want to prompt to go back and review the grammar aid feedback potentially. Or again, a lower score in revision aid, we might want to conference with that student, just check in, make sure they're writing about the actual topic and they're including the different structures in their essay as well. And then similarity, it's the one data point here that we actually want to see a lower score. The lower the score, the more original that work. If it pops up 99, 100%, again, maybe a student we want to check into and just make sure they're not copy pasting from a peer or the internet. And the good thing is you can see the source, you're going to know right away. So it's likely students won't necessarily get away with it, but it's great because they're learning that skill. They're learning to effectively cite and paraphrase. Perfect. So we're going to go over to guide and grade. And so guide and grade is a great screen to come to this page when your students are working. And what I'm going to have at the top is an outline of the assignment. If you're starting with a high five, this is a really good page to come to as well, because when your students are writing, we can use these filters to identify who's active, who hasn't started, who's ready to grade, or maybe who needs more support based on their grammar aid score. So again, I can use the filters, I can use the technology to find those students that might need more support. I can tell right here, Ashley, needing a little bit of support with the grammar. So maybe when I'm ready to grade as well, and again, I'll have those embedded data points to kind of help me right here. I'll have all my students on one page. I can review all that work and then just quickly go down the line and grade each one of those students. So again, we're really about using the technology to make things more efficient, to identify students that need that support. And then once we've recorded our grades, we're just going to submit those completed reviews. That's going to capture that grade for us. And again, if you're using your LMS, it's going to send that grade right back into your grade book. Excellent.
Awesome.
And
That's great, Tim.
yeah, I saw one question that popped up here too, and I will just mention briefly. If you're on the guide grade screen too, we do have an instant conference feature. So you can, if you're monitoring their work in real time, you can send them a message to check in. I can maybe bring up all the students who might need more support in grammar and maybe even message those students all at once. So not only can we monitor their work in real time, but we can message them and kind of teach to that moment with our students as well. Excellent. So that's kind of the major components of guide and grade. Ashley, I'll send it back to you.
Yeah, that's great. Tim, I hope everybody's excited as we are about that. It just makes grading and feedback so efficient. So to review, we've covered a lot today. We talked about getting logged in, bringing those classes over, navigating through journeys, copying assignments to your assignments page, assigning them out to students, looking at what a student sees, and then finally, just how to provide feedback for students, how to monitor what they're doing, how to kind of, if you need to pivot what you're doing based on what kind of data you're seeing. So this is a lot of information, and we imagine you'll leave here today with some questions. So we have a wonderful help center. It's in the question mark right next to your profile. And if you click in there, you have an option to search for anything you might want. So maybe you want to see a little bit more about creating high five or how revision aid works. You can search in the search bar, or like Tim's doing, you can just scroll down and find a resource you may need. Additionally, a really great support that we have is live support. So in live support, we have a whole team of people sitting there ready to help. So if you're going in after today, and I hope you do, and you're creating an assignment or you're really trying to bring those rosters over, send a chat if you have any questions or if you have any trouble. We are here to help. We want everything to be as simple as possible. And we want to get you up and started with Writable as smoothly as we can. So I really appreciate everyone coming today. Thank you so much.